Hollywood is built on illusion, glamour, smoke, and mirrors. Carefully constructed personas that dazzle on red carpets and smile through photo ops. But every once in a while the curtain falls, and when it does, it exposes something far more real, far more unsettling than any of us expected. And in the case of Blake Lively and Ryan Reynolds, the golden couple of celebrity culture, the illusion may be unraveling right before our eyes. You see, for years they've been the picture of perfection. Ryan, with his self-deprecating charm and sarcastic wit, has long been seen as one of Hollywood's most likable men. And Blake, with her effortless beauty and red carpet grace, has been positioned as a fashion icon and modern-day movie star. Together they've been branded as couple goals, perfect, untouchable, carefully curated. But what if it's all been a performance? What if behind the filtered photos, behind the rehearsed interviews and calculated tweets, lies a much darker reality? Because now, in the wake of a legal disaster involving It Ends With Us director Justin Baldoni and a defamation suit that has already been called a sham by legal experts, we're learning things we weren't supposed to. We're hearing whispers from inside the industry, and we're starting to understand that maybe, just maybe, these two aren't who we thought they were. It started innocently enough, a quiet industry event, a few journalists chatting, a Sony executive in the circle, and then a comment that shattered the myth. At least she's not as bad as Blake Lively, the Sony rep said casually in front of multiple people. A few awkward chuckles followed until someone asked, "Isn't Ryan Reynolds married to her? What does he see in her?" The room got quieter. Then came the punch: "He's horrible too. Both of them are horrible to work with. Let that sink in." The words came fast and unfiltered, not whispered in a corner, not hidden behind anonymity. Said with confidence in front of people who've worked in entertainment for years. And in that moment the myth started to crumble. Because if people are this comfortable saying it now, imagine how long they've been thinking it. Now this wouldn't be the first time the public image of a celebrity has been at odds with who they are behind the scenes. But what makes this different is the scale, the fallout, the stakes. This isn't just gossip. This is tied to a lawsuit that could end up costing over $100 million. This is about subpoenas sent to content creators, billionaires being harassed, foundations being shut down, an APR campaign so aggressive that it's raising serious ethical questions. Let's talk about that lawsuit. Blake Lively filed a defamation case against Justin Baldoni, claiming he orchestrated a smear campaign after filming It Ends With Us. But what's emerged since then has turned the narrative on its head. Instead of Baldoni being exposed, it's Blake, and by extension Ryan, who are being scrutinized. The judge didn't just throw out the case, he questioned its very foundation. He saw through the facade, and now the spotlight has shifted. One of the most tragic consequences of this legal battle has been the dismantling of the Wayfairer Foundation. Steve Sarowitz, the billionaire philanthropist who co-founded Wayfairer Studios and financially backed Baldoni, has revealed that his entire charitable foundation, one that supported over 200 nonprofits, has been shut down. Why? Because of a targeted arson, extortion threats, and a message that left his family fearing for their lives. His home was targeted. His daughter was threatened. All because he chose to support someone Blake Lively was trying to silence. Think about that. Over $60 million in charitable work gone, and this isn't some faceless corporate entity. Sarowitz is a devout member of the Baha'i faith. He believes money should serve humanity. He lives simply, flies coach, and wears off-the-rack clothes. He gave away tens of millions to causes that uplifted women and minorities. But now, because of Blake's legal campaign, he's laying low, hiding, retreating. And the people who depended on his foundation are left scrambling. And what about the supposed smear campaign that Blake claimed began only after the film's premiere? Will receipts say otherwise? Reddit threads from over a year ago, well before Baldoni's alleged involvement, are filled with critical posts about Blake's behavior, her attitude, and her treatment of fans. They talk about her being cold, entitled, dismissive. They talk about Ryan Reynolds being out of touch, calculated, fake. These weren't coordinated attacks. These were regular people sharing what they saw, what they felt, what they experienced. And it gets more absurd. Blake's legal team recently claimed they needed 6 more weeks to comb through 50,000 hours of footage from the film. Let's do the math. That's 5.7 years of continuous footage, 24/7. For a movie that filmed over a few weeks, anyone with even a shred of production knowledge knows how laughable that is. It's not just dishonest, it's insulting, a desperate stall tactic that only underscores how flimsy this case really is. Meanwhile, Ryan Reynolds is finding himself caught in the crossfire. His recent appointment as an officer of the Order of Canada sparked backlash across the country, and yet the official social media post celebrating his honor had 330 comments. Every single one of them glowing. Compare that to his Disney Plus documentary promo, which racked up over 200 comments, many of them scathing. It's not hard to connect the dots. Someone is cleaning up his digital footprint. But for every scrubbed post, the public's trust erodes a little more. And the subpoenas they've gone out to major content creators, Perez Hilton, Candace Owens, Andy Signore. Blake's team is demanding their footage, their sources, their private communications. This is no longer about winning a court case, it's about intimidation. Silencing critics, making an example, but it's backfiring. Because those creators, they're louder than ever, more unified than ever. And now they've got the receipts too. This story is spiraling. And for Blake and Ryan, the consequences are only beginning. What happens when the public stops believing the image? What happens when the industry stops protecting its favorites? What happens when your carefully constructed brand is exposed as a carefully calculated illusion? We're about to find out. Because this is more than a celebrity feud, more than a courtroom drama. This is about ego, reputation, control, and the cost of trying to silence the truth. And if the past few months are any indication, that cost is growing by the day, so buckle up, because in this video we're diving into the full scope of what's happening behind the scenes. The insider quotes, the subpoenas, the destroyed philanthropy, the PR cover-ups, the deleted comments, and the growing realization that Hollywood's favorite couple may be falling from grace fast. This is the story they don't want you to hear, but we're telling it anyway. Both of them are horrible to work with. That's not my words, those are the words of a Sony executive said publicly, and without hesitation in front of a group of industry professionals. And when I say that comment stunned the room, I mean it. There was this quiet collective gasp among the journalists present, because up until that moment most of us thought we had a pretty solid handle on who Blake Lively and Ryan Reynolds were. I mean, Ryan Reynolds, really, he was always the charming, witty guy. Everyone loved him. Or so we thought. Hi, welcome back. Today's video isn't just another update in the ongoing legal saga between Blake Lively and Justin Baldoni. It's something much bigger. This is about the public image versus private reality of Hollywood's so-called golden couple. It's about the damage they've caused, reputational, financial, and even emotional. It's about a billionaire philanthropist foundation collapsing under the weight of a lawsuit. It's about the shocking subpoenas being served to content creators. It's about manipulation, silencing voices, and spinning a narrative. But most of all, it's about the walls finally crumbling on a carefully curated image that no longer holds up under scrutiny, but never anything quite like this. The Sony executives' remark about Blake being horrible to work with wasn't even the shocking part. What came next was, a fellow reporter stunned asked, "But what about Ryan? He's married to her. He always seems so kind." And the response, without missing a beat, "He's horrible too. Both of them are just awful to work with." It was one of those moments where everything kind of shifts. I remember thinking, wow, people are really done protecting them. This came as a real surprise to many of us in the journalism space, because Ryan Reynolds has spent years carefully crafting a likable, self-deprecating persona. He's the guy who pokes fun at himself on Twitter, plays lovable antiheroes on screen, and always seems effortlessly cool in interviews. But maybe it's just that a persona, a performance, a role he's been playing all along, and now the mask is slipping. And then there's Blake. Her public persona has always been a bit more controlled, more aloof. She's stylish, poised, elegant. But she's also had a reputation behind the scenes that isn't so pristine. Stories have circulated for years about her being rude to fans, cold on set, dismissive toward colleagues, but these were just whispers. No one ever really called her out in a big way. That's changing now. And what's happening in the courtroom is accelerating that shift. As you may know, Blake Lively filed a defamation lawsuit against Justin Baldoni, accusing him of funding and orchestrating a smear campaign against her. After the disastrous production of It Ends With Us, that case has since imploded. A judge effectively dismantled it, criticizing its flimsy legal foundation. But Blake isn't backing down. Instead, she's doubling down, and the fallout is getting uglier. One of the most heartbreaking consequences of this lawsuit is what happened to Steve Sarowitz, the billionaire co-founder of Wayfairer Studios and the man financially supporting Baldoni's legal defense. Many of you sent me the Forbes article that exposed what he's been going through, and I'm so glad you did, because it paints a very different picture than what Blake's PR team wants the public to believe. Steve Sarowitz is not some shadowy figure bankrolling a smear campaign. He's a philanthropist, a man of faith, a man who dedicated his fortune to causes that empower women, minorities, and spiritual growth through the Wayfairer Foundation, which he personally funded with over $160 million. He helped support over 200 nonprofits. But now that foundation is shut down, completely dismantled. Why? Because of threats, because of fear, because someone set fire to his home and threatened to kidnap his daughter. The message was clear: if you can afford to pay Justin Baldoni's legal bills, you can afford to pay for your daughter's safety. That kind of psychological terrorism is beyond disturbing, and it's a direct consequence of this lawsuit. According to Forbes, Sarowitz is now retreating from public life. He's still donating, but quietly, privately. The Wayfairer Foundation, once a beacon of hope for hundreds of organizations, is gone. That's over $60 million in charitable support. Lost because Blake Lively couldn't handle public criticism. Let that sink in. Hundreds of nonprofits, thousands of lives, all affected because one celebrity launched a legal attack built on ego and resentment. And it doesn't stop there. Content creators, people like Perez Hilton, Candace Owens, and Andy Signore have all been served subpoenas. Blake's legal team wants access to their sources' footage, communications. This isn't about justice. This is about control, about silencing dissent, about making an example out of anyone who dares to challenge the narrative. Let's talk about those subpoenas for a minute. If you've ever worked in journalism, you know how serious this is. Subpoenaing a journalist's sources is an attack on press freedom. It sends a chilling message: speak up and we'll come after you. And while this may be happening in the realm of entertainment news, the implications are far bigger. It's about whether celebrities get to dictate what can and cannot be said about them. It's about power and how it's wielded. Now let's get into the absurdity of Blake's legal team's latest move. They claim they need 6 more weeks of discovery time to review 50,000 hours of behind-the-scenes footage from It Ends With Us. 50,000 hours, let's do the math. That's 5.7 years of non-stop footage filmed 24/7. Unless Justin Baldoni had a full-time surveillance team filming every waking moment since 2017. There's just no way. It's laughable, it's desperate, and it shows just how far Blake's team is willing to go to delay the inevitable. Meanwhile, Reynolds is facing his own growing backlash. Recently, he was appointed Officer of the Order of Canada, a major honor. But the reaction, let's just say, it wasn't universally positive. Canadians flooded social media with criticism. But if you go to the official post about the award, you'll see something strange. Over 330 comments, and every single one of them is positive. That's not just unlikely, that's suspicious. Especially when other posts from Ryan only get 10 or 15 comments. And those are often heavily curated. Compare that to the 200+ unfiltered comments under his Disney Plus documentary promotion, most of which are scathing. It's pretty clear someone is managing his online image very, very closely. And it's not just social media. Reddit threads from over a year ago, long before the lawsuit, were already turning against Blake and Ryan. People criticized Blake's style, her attitude, her treatment of fans. They said the couple's relationship goals image felt fake, forced, overhyped. These weren't isolated opinions, they were consistent, widespread, and growing. So when Blake's team claimed the smear campaign began with Justin Baldoni, they were ignoring months, if not years, of public sentiment that was already shifting. Let's be real. Blake Lively didn't fall from grace because of a smear campaign. She fell because the mask slipped, because people started talking, because insiders stopped protecting her, because the narrative stopped working. And instead of doing what most people do, lay low, reflect, course correct, she went on the attack. Sued the people around her, tried to rewrite the story, and it backfired. And let's not forget the financials. Forbes estimates that the legal and PR costs for this lawsuit have already hit $40 million. Discovery isn't even over, the trial hasn't even started. Experts say the final number could easily hit $100 million. Think about what that money could have done, how many lives it could have changed, how many foundations could have thrived, but instead it's being burned in a courtroom war driven by ego and denial. And now here we are with a crumbling case, a tarnished image, and a growing list of enemies. Even within Hollywood, you can feel the shift. People aren't afraid to talk anymore. Industry insiders are going on record. Journalists are refusing to back down, and fans, they're connecting the dots. They're asking questions, they're watching closely. At the center of it all are Blake and Ryan, once the golden couple, now the subject of growing scrutiny. It's not just a scandal, it's a reckoning. A wake-up call to an industry that's tired of enabling toxic behavior behind a polished facade. So what happens next? Well, Justin Baldoni has until July 9th to refile his appeal. That could open the floodgates to even more evidence, more testimony, more exposure. And based on what we're already seeing, that could be devastating for Blake, for Ryan, for everyone involved in trying to control this narrative. This is no longer just about a failed film. This is about power, truth, reputation, and accountability, and it's only just beginning. As the dust continues to settle, or rather swirl into an even more intense storm around Blake Lively and Ryan Reynolds, one thing has become painfully clear: this is not just a legal case anymore. This is a moral reckoning, a cultural turning point, a sobering reminder that no amount of curated Instagram posts or carefully coordinated red carpet moments can shield anyone from accountability, not forever. Because the truth has a way of slipping through the cracks. It leaks, it lingers, and once it finds light, it spreads. What began as a defamation suit meant to silence critics and reassert power has instead opened the floodgates of scrutiny. And the public, they're paying attention, they're connecting dots. They're reading past the headlines and looking deeper. Blake Lively may have intended to bury Justin Baldoni and control the narrative surrounding it ends with us, but in doing so she unearthed a much uglier truth: the undeniable disconnect between who she presents herself to be and how people actually experience her. And Ryan Reynolds, once the untouchable Hollywood charmer, is no longer immune either. His proximity to the scandal, his apparent silence, and his suspiciously well-manicured public presence have drawn new attention. People are no longer laughing at the jokes, they're questioning the man behind the Deadpool mask. His recent honor from the Canadian government, once a shining PR win, is now viewed with raised eyebrows. How did he get it? Why now? And what is being hidden behind those deleted comments and mysteriously glowing replies? The industry is taking note too. The Sony insider's bombshell remarks about both Blake and Ryan being horrible to work with didn't come from a place of gossip. They came from fatigue with the double standards, fatigue with the media machinery that props up certain stars while punishing others, fatigue with the illusion. And if insiders feel emboldened to speak out now, imagine how many more will follow. Once the dam breaks, the flood is inevitable. Let's not forget the human cost. Steve Sarowitz, the billionaire who dared to stand by Justin Baldoni, paid a steep price for that loyalty. His foundation, which supported over 200 nonprofits and helped countless lives, was dismantled in the wake of arson threats and extortion. That's not the plot of a thriller, it's the real consequence of one woman's unwillingness to accept public criticism, because at its core this lawsuit wasn't about truth or justice, it was about control over the story, the perception, and the power. But lawsuits have a funny way of backfiring when the motives aren't clean. And this one, it's blown up in spectacular fashion. Instead of painting Baldoni as a villain, it's lifted the curtain on an entire facade, revealing how far a public figure will go to silence their critics, even if it means sacrificing truth, philanthropy, and press freedom in the process. The subpoenas sent to content creators like Perez Hilton, Candace Owens, and Andy Signore are proof of that desperation. They weren't issued for justice, they were issued for fear. A fear that the narrative was slipping away, a fear that the public was seeing too much, a fear that the truth might finally gain traction. But here's the irony: those subpoenas only fueled more interest, more coverage, more outrage. They didn't silence anyone. If anything, they amplified the very stories Blake wanted buried. And the math doesn't lie. With legal bills and PR costs now topping $40 million and discovery not even completed, it's not unrealistic to believe this case could burn through $100 million before it even reaches a courtroom. That's money that could have been used to empower communities, fund mental health programs, build schools, provide resources for survivors. Instead, it's evaporating in a PR war designed to protect a reputation that was already fraying at the seams. But perhaps what's most disturbing about all this isn't the money or even the industry gossip, it's the level of calculation and media manipulation at play. The carefully managed social media feeds, the purged comment sections, the sudden surges of positivity under controversial posts. It's all so transparent now. And the public is catching on. They're realizing that what they're being shown isn't real. It's strategy, it's optics. It's a carefully designed illusion meant to distract from the rot underneath. Even Reddit, that bastion of raw internet honesty, has long been hosting discussions about Blake's cold behavior, her distancing from fans, and the breakdown of her perfect image with Ryan. And these posts date back long before it ends with US, long before Baldoni's involvement, and certainly long before this lawsuit. The narrative that a smear campaign suddenly began the moment the film underperformed, it doesn't hold up. The criticism has been building for years. All this lawsuit did was throw gasoline on the fire. Now we're at a crossroads. Blake Lively's legal team is spinning in circles, throwing out wild claims about 50,000 hours of footage needing review, as if that kind of volume would even be possible for a mid-budget romantic drama. As commentators and legal experts have pointed out, the math doesn't work. It's a stalling tactic, and a clumsy one at that. And in their desperation to delay, her team is drawing even more scrutiny. Even more mockery and most importantly further eroding the little credibility they had left. So where does this go from here? Well, as of now, Justin Baldoni has until July 9th to refile his appeal, and based on everything we've seen, heard, and pieced together, he will. And when he does, the discovery process could reopen, more evidence could surface, more testimonies could be heard. The very footage Blake's team claims to want may come back to haunt them. Because truth has a strange way of surviving the spin. And while the courtroom drama unfolds, the cultural one continues outside it. The public, once passive consumers of celebrity branding, are now engaged participants in the unraveling. They're fact-checking timelines, they're reading legal filings, they're dissecting PR tactics. This isn't just gossip anymore, it's awareness. People are asking the right questions. Why now? Why these people? Why this lawsuit? Why silence those who spoke up? And the answers, though murky, are starting to become clearer. This is about ego, about image, about the lengths some will go to preserve an illusion. And if there's one thing this entire saga has proven, it's that the illusion is no longer enough. Blake Lively may have once been the darling of fashion spreads and fantasy dramas, but she's now a central figure in one of the messiest, most damaging public battles Hollywood has seen in years. And Ryan Reynolds, once a bulletproof brand ambassador and internet hero, is now being reconsidered by the very fans who used to idolize him. The damage is done, the conversations have changed, and no amount of deleted comments or carefully curated award ceremonies can undo the fact that the veil has been lifted. In a few months, we may look back on this and realize this was the moment it all changed. Not just for Blake, not just for Ryan, but for how we engage with celebrity culture as a whole. The days of blind worship are ending. The public wants transparency, authenticity, accountability. And when celebrities fail to offer it, that the consequences are swift and, as we've seen, potentially devastating. For now, we wait for the appeal, for the discovery, for the next move in what has become a high-stakes game of reputational chess. But one thing is certain: no matter how this ends in court, the truth is already out. The image is shattered, the silence is broken, and the world is watching.